Fashion has always been a mirror of its time, and Jean-Paul Gaultier's Spring-Summer 2025 collection feels like a bold response to the present moment. This season, the house dives into the world of structure and sensuality, revisiting one of its most iconic elements, the corset, but with a modern, almost defiant twist. Corsetry has long been a cornerstone of Gaultier's creative DNA. From Madonna's cone bra to androgynous, deconstructed silhouettes, the designer has consistently used this garment to challenge societal norms around gender, power, and the body. But in 2025, the corset is no longer a nod to the past. It's a manifesto of freedom. The runway opened with sculptural metallic corsets that resembled architectural frameworks, exposing the skeleton of the garment rather than concealing it. These pieces were paired with fluid, transparent fabrics, creating a striking contrast between rigidity and softness. It's a visual metaphor for the modern world, structure coexisting with vulnerability. What makes this collection particularly relevant is its dialogue with contemporary femininity. Historically, corsets symbolized control. Gaultier always subverted that narrative, turning the corset into a tool of empowerment. In SS 2025, we see this legacy evolve. Corsets aren't constricting the body, but rather celebrating it. Waistlines are suggested, not imposed. Boning appears externally, as if the wearer controls the garment, not the other way around. The color palette supports this narrative. Classic black and cream tones are interwoven with muted metallics and soft, washed-out pastels, reminiscent of sun-bleached fabrics and vintage lingerie. It's as if the pieces have lived a life of their own, carrying stories of past rebellions into the present. The collection also subtly references the 80s power dressing era, another key period for Gaultier. Oversized blazers with corset-laced backs hint at the tension between societal expectations and personal identity. Meanwhile, sheer, asymmetrical skirts evoke the liberated spirit of the 1920s flappers, women who, much like Gaultier's muses, rejected the constraints of tradition. But why this collection now? In a time when conversations about gender, identity, and self-expression are louder than ever, Gaultier reminds us that fashion has always been part of this dialogue. The corset, once a tool of suppression, is now a canvas for self-expression. The message is clear. Strength isn't about conforming to external structures, but embracing one's own. As the final model stepped onto the runway, a vision in a shimmering pearl-encrusted corset dress, the audience was reminded of why Gaultier's legacy endures. It's not just about revisiting historical silhouettes. It's about reinterpreting them for today's world, where individuality reigns supreme. The SS 2025 collection isn't just a love letter to the corset. It's a testament to fashion's transformative power to reclaim, redefine, and ultimately liberate. Harris Reed's Spring-Summer 2025 collection is a dramatic exploration of identity, gender fluidity, and historical symbolism through the lens of fashion. The corset, a central motif in this collection, is not just a garment, but a statement, a piece of armor that challenges traditional norms while paying homage to the past. Reed, known for blending historical references with modern inclusivity, reimagines the corset as a tool of empowerment rather than restriction. The collection draws inspiration from 18th century silhouettes, with corsets reminiscent of the Georgian era, paired with voluminous skirts and intricate panniers. Yet, these historical elements are deconstructed and reassembled with contemporary materials like metallic fabrics and bold textures. The corset here transcends its historical context as a restrictive garment, instead becoming a symbol of self-expression and liberation. Reed's use of corsetry also reflects a broader narrative about gender and societal roles. In an era where traditional binaries are being questioned, the corset, once a marker of femininity and constraint, is reclaimed and redefined. The designer incorporates lace-up details, exaggerated boning, and structured bodices not to confine, but to give the wearer a sense of presence and individuality. By presenting corsets in various forms, from sculptural pieces that echo Baroque opulence to minimalist designs with sleek, modern lines, Reed invites the audience to see beyond the surface. In spring-summer 2025, the corset becomes more than a historical artifact. It becomes a conversation about power, identity, and the evolving nature of fashion itself. The Elsa Schiaparelli Spring-Summer 2025 Couture collection, designed by Daniel Roseberry, once again blurred the lines between fashion, art, and surrealism. This season, Roseberry drew inspiration from the house's rich heritage, particularly Elsa Schiaparelli's fascination with the impossible, a realm where the everyday becomes extraordinary and the boundaries of the human body are pushed to new, imaginative extremes. The runway was a visual narrative of transformation, anchored in historical references, yet distinctly modern in execution. The collection took cues from the 18th and 19th centuries, with corsets, panniers, and sculptural silhouettes reminiscent of courtly fashion. However, these elements were not presented as mere historical nods. Instead, they were deconstructed and exaggerated, becoming abstract symbols of power, femininity, and surrealist whimsy. Corsets were a defining feature of the show, but not as restrictive garments of the past. Roseberry reinterpreted them as architectural frameworks, rib-like structures visible through sheer fabrics or molded into metallic exoskeletons. The intention was clear. These corsets didn't confine the body, but instead celebrated its form. The designer referenced the historical significance of corsetry while subverting its traditional associations with control and submission. One particularly striking look featured a corset made entirely of sculpted, gilded hands, a direct homage to Elsa Schiaparelli's collaboration with Salvador Dalí and their shared love for bodily motifs. Hands, a recurring element in the house's iconography, here symbolized the human touch in haute couture, the craftsmanship, creativity, and surrealist playfulness that define Schiaparelli. The color palette oscillated between stark contrasts and muted elegance. Black and ivory served as the canvas for bold gold embellishments, echoing the neoclassical aesthetics of ancient Greek and Roman sculpture. The presence of deep crimson and metallic bronze brought a sense of opulence reminiscent of Baroque art, while the use of trompe-l'œil effects referenced Schiaparelli's own experiments with visual deception in the 1930s. Accessories, as always, played a crucial role in the storytelling. Oversized keyhole earrings and anatomical-inspired jewelry harked back to the house's surrealist roots, while golden corset belts evoked the waistlines of Belle Epoque gowns. Each piece seemed to whisper stories of past eras reimagined through a contemporary lens. The finale left a lasting impression. A model walked in a corset gown that appeared to crack like marble, revealing golden veins beneath. The imagery was unmistakable, a reference to the Japanese art of Kintsugi, where broken ceramics are repaired with gold, embracing imperfections rather than concealing them. Through this metaphor, Roseberry suggested that beauty lies not in flawlessness, but in the narratives woven through time, memory, and craftsmanship. Ultimately, Schiaparelli 2025 Couture reaffirmed the Maison's commitment to surrealist exploration and historical reinterpretation. The corset, once a symbol of societal conformity, was transformed into an emblem of creative freedom. Roseberry's collection wasn't just about garments. It was a meditation on the enduring allure of the impossible, a sartorial conversation with the ghosts of fashion's past and its limitless future.